Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. Today, we'll be doing a 7-round Seattle Seahawks specific mock draft. We'll also be using the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator, as you see on the screen. So, Adam, let's talk Seahawks.
Let's talk draft.
Our
first official live mock draft. How many of these have you done over the last 2 weeks?
Oh, I don't know. I have the PFF app on my phone, and so I'm signed in with my account, and I just go through them whenever I'm bored. So probably 100.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Although I am not on the PFF one, I've been using various sites to try to get a feel for what's out there. But so far, PFF is the best mock draft simulator I have found.
There's a couple more I need to try, but
they're not paying us.
Yeah, a no paid promotion. No, there's one more I need to try, but for the most part, PFF is the most user-friendly. They have a pretty good interface.
Yeah, and I feel like the mock trades that it allows during the draft this draft simulator are a little bit more spot on than some of the other ones. Like I've had like the Houston Texans offering me 2 first-round picks and like a multitude of other draft picks for a 7th-round pick, and I'm like, that's not happening. I mean, I'll take it, but it's not happening.
Yeah. So, Adam, what do you think the Seahawks' needs are going into this mock draft that we're about to do?
I mean, I don't know that my opinion on what the Seahawks needs are any different than most people's opinions or most talking heads' opinions are. I mean, obviously the defensive line was an issue for us last year, and though we've done some things to kind of bolster that, I don't know that we've had a big net gain in that position. I mean, we let several guys go. We did sign several guys, but I think that's still our number one position of need. Is shoring up that defensive line so that we don't, again, finish in the bottom of the league in run defense. Something that I'm sure Pete Carroll and John Schneider is foremost on their minds as well. So that's my number one need. It's still drafting defensive line. I think we need a lot more interior guys that can play those true 4 or 3-4 defensive ends, as well as nose tackle or nose guard, as the great Rob Rang likes to call it all the time. And after that, it's kind of an open book, man. I mean, I think obviously interior offensive line is one. I do think we need to add some more pass catchers. I think we could add some more guys in the secondary, especially on the boundaries. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's any specific thing that they're going to have to hit hard early, but I would expect that defensive and offensive line is going to be something they're going to take multiple picks with. So,
I'm right there with you. I would love to see some defensive line in the mix. We definitely need that big old nose in there, that big space eating kind of player who can stop the run. I wouldn't mind an edge rusher. I'm not as high on that as a need as a lot of other people are. I think we have a fair amount of edge rushers, and this season will determine who we extend, though it would be nice to have somebody on a nice rookie contract to go along with Boye Mafe from last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're going to draft someone to play that edge rusher position, whether that's outside linebacker or something that's a true rushing D end. But I don't know that that's something they need to focus on early, like you were saying.
No,
it's nice
I don't
to have that 5th-year option, but yeah,
I'd like to see another linebacker or two. I would love an outside corner, and I would love a corner relatively early to push Mike Jackson and Trey Brown, who is going to be starting opposite Tariq Woolen on that other outside edge. And really, Kobe Bryant, last year was his first year playing slot. I thought he did great, learning the position as the season went on. He could also push for an outside spot, depending on what shakes out for that slot corner spot, with Love kind of factoring into that mix as well.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what we're going to do to kind of adjust our defensive scheme. I think that Pete Carroll's already expressed that he wants to use multiple fronts at different times, have multiple defensive schemes out there, whether that's 5 or even more defensive backs out there at one time, more edge rushers and fewer big guys on the line, obviously in passing situations, hopefully not in obvious run situations, because that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, again, I think that this is going to be a really interesting draft from a lot of points of view, because we saw last year where they kind of went a little away from their normal or their what they've done in years past, and went with guys that, one, were solid at their position and work projects, and they focus on the offensive line early, and then kind of pushed some of those position players a little bit farther down their board, which is a little bit kind of out of sorts for what the Seahawks normally do. So we've never seen them take a tight end higher than the third round. We've never seen them take a cornerback higher than the third round. I don't know that that's necessarily going to change this year, but if it was going to, this would be the year for it to happen. So,
yeah, I'd like to fill some of those holes. I'd also like mid rounds, late round. I would like them to draft a running back. We have a depleted running back stable right now. It's just Ken Walker, DJ Dallas, and Darwin Thompson are our 3 running backs on the roster. I'd like to get another guy in there to kind of push those guys, see who's going to end up as the third down back. It'll probably be DJ Dallas, but somebody who can get in there, block, be a good receiving threat out of the backfield, somebody who can complement what Ken Walker does to move forward.
Yeah, we need a little thunder to the Ken Walker Lightning, that's for sure.
I'd love a big old power back.
Yeah, which has been kind of traditionally what Seahawks have, at least early in the Pete Carroll era. Those were the kind of running backs that we were drafting, and the running backs we were kind of plugging in there were those big power running backs, big 215, 220 plus pound guys. And then we kind of skirted that a little bit going away. Although Penny's still a bigger back, he's definitely more of a fast back as opposed to a power back. And the same thing with Ken Walker. He's not the traditional Pete Carroll running back. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of go back to that and want to find a guy that's a little bit more complimentary and can really get those short yards.
Yeah, exactly. Find somebody who's going to kind of take that role that Penny would have had now that he's gone to the Eagles. All right, so let's get underway with this mock draft.
Let's do it.
Let's see. We're going to pick the Seattle Seahawks. 7 rounds. See, let's
so kind of go over these.
Let's skew a little more public because I like PFF, but I don't always like PFF's rankings for players.
Fair.
Let's see. We're going to leave a little bit of randomness on because every now and then a team comes up and takes a player you didn't expect there.
We're looking at you, Raiders.
All right. And we'll leave those the way they are.
All right.
All right. We're not offering any trades. I don't think the Jets are going to use that number 13 pick in the Aaron Rodgers trade. I think that's sort of the holding point on that transaction right now in the league. Obviously, they might trade other picks in this draft, but we're going to go ahead and leave that alone. We're not going to force any trades in that regard. We'll see what shakes out. All right. You ready to kick this off?
Yeah, let's do it. Carolina Panthers are on the clock. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson Jr. so far falling exactly the way everyone thinks it's going to go. Anthony Richardson to the Colts. That's the first big surprise, although not really, considering all the I'm going to say negative publicity surrounding one Will Levis lately. Okay, so we're up on the clock.
We are up
number
on 5
the clock. Pick. Do we have any trade offers? 21 trade.
Computer gave us 21.
Okay, well let's take a look at those.
All right.
We're not because the screen's.
We're not going to trade this time because apparently it is blocked by my screen.
Oh no. Well, I think for this one, I think maybe we do just kind of stay in position. This being our first mock draft, we don't have to get too crazy with these trades. I don't know where Jalen Carter's at on their draft board. I don't know if he's still on there after his very public off-field issues. But if he's still on their draft board, my guess is he's still number 1 on their draft board. I know that there's been a few some negative and some knocks on him, especially of late. What with how he kind of showed up to his pro day a little bit out of shape and didn't even finish the workouts. Which is why I'm not sure he is still on the Seahawks draft board. But if he's still there, he's definitely their number 1 guy. I think if he's not on the draft board, then the next guy up is probably going to be Tyree Wilson. That would be my pick at number 5. If you want to go with a guy that's going to still play that interior defensive line, obviously he's not going to be playing true D tackle for them, but a guy that can play either that 3 tech or 5 tech for that on the interior Has some rushing ability, but I want a bigger guy there, obviously. So that's why Tyree Wilson is my pick. I mean, this guy's, over 6'6", 245 plus, or 270 plus pounds, I think. Just a big mauling dude. He didn't have a ton of production in college, but he's one of those guys that projects to have a really high upside. And if there's a team that can unlock that, I think that's the Seahawks. But what do you think? Where's your mindset on this number 5 overall pick?
So there's something about Tyree Wilson that I just don't like. I'm not sure what it is. And Adam and I were having this conversation.
It's because he played for Texas Tech.
No, it's not actually. I'm a fan of the Red Raiders, but I don't like him at 5. If the Seahawks were to trade back, maybe, 8, 9, 10, 11, pick him with one of those picks. Great. Totally fine with it. I don't know why. I just hate him at 5. I'm not sure what it is, but I would actually go Jalen Carter if I were them in this situation. I think we have the locker room that can take it. He is clearly the best on-field player, but he's the only character concern player that I would take. Like, I wouldn't go for another one down the road because you're going to need that locker room kind of mentorship. You're going to need that close, watchful eye to make sure you get him motivated where he needs to go. And that's another thing. If it is a motivation problem, Seattle is definitely a team where you can get players motivated.
Yeah, I mean, culture is not an issue here in Seattle. I think that's pretty far and away one of our least, one of the things we have the least issue with here. I think if Jalen Carter's there, and the Seahawks, if he's still on their draft board, he is number 1 on their draft board. So yeah, I think if we're going to take Jalen Carter, let's take Jalen Carter.
All right.
And the pick is in. 21 trade offers, man. It would have been fun to see those though. 9 teams. Let's scroll through and scroll back and see who was taken. That's a little weird. I'm not used to seeing that.
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. So we had the Lions take Tyree Wilson.
There you go.
Will Levis to the Raiders. Christian Gonzalez to the Falcons. Peter Skoronski to the Bears. I think this is a legit possibility. I think if Jalen Carter falls, they snatch him up in a heartbeat. But if somebody takes Jalen Carter, then Peter Skoronski will 100% be the Bears pick if he's there.
Yeah, great pick. Obviously, the guy that's got some positional versatility along that offensive line. I mean, played a lot of tackle in college, but I think he's projected to be a guard. There's something about arm length that bugs people. Speaking of someone who's got kind of short arms.
It is what it is.
But yeah, I think that one makes a lot of sense. Jackson Smith and Jigba to the Eagles is interesting. I mean, this is not a team where offense has been an issue of late. But that would be kind of disgusting, them getting a player like that to be their third receiver, to go along with Smith and the guy whose name I'm always spacing names. So everybody knows who he is. Anyway, their other top wide receiver, AJ Brown. For the love of God, Adam.
Hold on, let me see if I can make this fit a little better.
That's what she said. It's an Office quote. That's all that was. There was nothing else behind that. Completely innocent, just quoting The Office.
All right. We will have to make do.
Yeesh. We did say this is our first go-around, guys, so. All right, let's see. So
all right. So
there's a lot of weird ones. Okay, let's go back and take a look at these again. All right.
And we won't do this for the whole draft. We're just going to do it for the first round just to see where some.
No, let's break it down exactly. Let's do every single one of these like that. Paris Johnson to the Titans. Titans
legit
offensive line, I think is absolutely. Yep. Devin Witherspoon to the Texans. Interesting pick, but they do need some corner help, so it makes sense.
Jets taking this is something I could see them doing to lock up that secondary. Pair him with Derek Stingley Jr. from last year. Let's see. I think Jets taking a tackle, definitely something they could use. Lucas Van Ness, I've said from the beginning, is the most Patriots player in this draft.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense at 14. Mm-hmm. Miles Murphy to the Green Bay Packers. This one's a little skeptical.
Yeah, this won't happen.
It just doesn't seem like that doesn't seem that kind of player. I don't think he's a scheme fit for him.
This would break my heart because I want nothing more than to see Joey Porter Jr. go to the Steelers. I like good, warm, heartfelt stories like that. Let's
Quentin
see.
Johnson to the Steelers. That pick makes no sense to me.
Nope.
That is not a position of need for the Steelers right now. Not that they couldn't. Adding great pass catcher is not a bad idea, but that's a player that reminds me a lot of the guy that they took last year. Just a big physical outside wide receiver. I don't know if that's a need for them. That's kind of a weird one.
You're talking about George
Bijan
Pickens?
Robinson to the Lions. Yeah, I'm talking about Pickens.
Bijan Robinson to the Lions. This also won't happen because they just spent a bunch of money to bring Montgomery in there. But I could see.
Look, well, if they let's say this, if they end up trading Swift, which I think is a possibility. There's been rumors that he's being shopped. It'd be a little weird for them to shake up their backfield that much, considering that they didn't re-sign Jamal Williams. But if they end up moving on from Swift, then that's a heck of a pick for them.
Let's see. Brian Branch could legitimately be a Buccaneer. Just they need help in the slot, but also at safety, and he plays both. So that would be a real good player for them. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. I feel as though I swayed you on pick number 1. So what I'm going to do is we're going to alternate. So why don't you take pick 20? So I'll give you my 2 cents, but you'll be responsible for the pick, and then we'll alternate from there on out.
Okay. Well, so here's my biggest thing. I think and I know we're not doing trades at all, or I don't know if we've decided on that, but I think if the Seahawks do end up staying pat at 5 and taking a player at 5, then they're going to try and trade down later in the draft. I don't see them taking. I don't see them sticking with their 2 first-round picks. That would be very un-Seahawky, very John Schneidery of them to do. Can we see trades this time or not? Let's take a look.
Let's not do trades this time.
Or we cannot do it. There we go. That was the question. All right, cool. So let's take a look at the players available. I know I saw some D line there. Obviously, Cansey's still there, and I love Kalijah Cansey, but I just don't. I think we're still kind of on the fence about whether or not we're going to bring Poona Ford back. If there was no Poona Ford option, I'd say that's a good pick for them. But considering we already took a D tackle, I want to take a look and see what else is out there. So we've got tight end. Obviously, we know we have our pick of the tight ends. None of the tight ends have been off the board. If you watch some of the other Seahawks podcasts online, a lot of people have been pounding the table for either Mayer or one of those tight ends in this draft. But man, there's so many good players right now. Nolan Smith, a guy that I really love. It'd be kind of fun and maybe a little interesting to pair him up with his college teammate. And then that would be that guy right there. You want a complimentary edge rusher to go along with Boye Mafe that you got under rookie contract. That'd be the guy. Zay Flowers, I really like as an option for the Seahawks if they want to go wide receiver early. Obviously, our number 1 guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is already off the board, but I think Zay Flowers is another guy that can come in and fill in that slot role right away for the Seahawks. Good hands, knows how to get open. I know you're a little higher on Jordan Addison than I am.
I just like his versatility. I like that he can play outside as well as in the slot, which allows you to kind of play with formations and utilize.
Yeah, look, if the idea is we think that Tyler Lockett's kind of slowing down, and we want to bring in the next Tyler Lockett, I think Jordan Addison's your guy. But if we want to go with someone that's a little bit of a different kind of mold, I mean, Zay Flowers is one of those guys that I could see, taking those sweeps out of the backfield. Certainly can kill people on those crossers. Has great breakaway speed. Mayer's there. I think this is going to surprise some people, but I'm going to go tight end, and I'm going to go scroll down because we're going with Darnell Washington out of Georgia.
All right, now
I know he's down there.
He's a ways down. Let me just go by position then.
This is going to surprise a lot of people, but this is why, again, we talked about the rankings that Pro Football Focus has. Not that I completely disagree with all their rankings, but I do not think that Darnell is the 3rd tight end on anybody's board. He's either the 1st or the 2nd tight end on nearly every team's board right now. Not taking anything away from Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, but but as a prospect, Darnell Washington is just a beast. This is a guy that's going to be able to come in and anchor that end of that offensive line, help out the tackles in running situations, and just be a big red zone threat for us.
For sure. He's really a 6th O lineman who's eligible to catch passes. And that's what I like. I like a tight end who can go out there and do it all. And that's really what he brings to the table. Little raw in the passing game. Needs to work cleaning up his routes, approaching the catch point. But I think those are things that can be taught. And when you have a good
and luckily
coaching staff, they can do that.
And we've got a great tight end room. I mean, he's going to be coming into a situation where we've got guys, Uncle Will Disley, I think, is the perfect mentor for a guy like Darnell Washington. But he's coming into a great situation if we add him to that tight end room. So,
all right. So let's just take a quick peek here at the end of the first round, how the computer filled it out. If you look, we got Nolan Smith going, Jordan Addison, Brian Breesy, Deontay Banks to the Jags, which I think is a possible landing spot. Zay Flowers, I think they're going to go O lineman there in New York. I don't think they're going to take a wide receiver. But yeah, if you look,
need pass catchers.
Clyde Jacansey, Michael Mayer up in Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid, Osiris Torrance, Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright, little run on offensive lineman there. But yeah, this I could actually see happening. The Rams coming in and sniping a big old nose tackle that we need, one pick before the Seahawks.
Jerks. Yeah, Mazzy Smith, definitely my number one nose tackle on the draft board. There are two other guys that we can get a little bit later, though. Those being Siaki Ika and Keanu Benton, I think, are both would fill that role just as well. Maybe not just as well, but could easily we could plug in there. Those are plug and play guys in my mind.
Definitely. I think even if you go farther back, 5th, 6th round, somebody like Jared Clark out of Coastal Carolina is really intriguing to me. Athletic, big, just somebody I think really impressed me at the combine, the way he moved in the field drills. So he's somebody I'm keeping an eye on late. But right here at this pick, number 37, I've got to address the interior line. And I'm going to go with Steve Avila out of TCU, guard. He can play some center, but he's definitely probably going to play that guard. And he's going to push Phil Haynes for that right guard spot. And that's what I'm looking at right here. So I'm going to take.
Yeah, Steve Avila, I think, is a great pick there. I mean, I'm a little higher on guys like Joe Tippmann and Cody Mock. We've already kind of talked about that in some of these podcasts. But yeah, I think getting a guy that has some positional dexterity, I think, is a great idea. And Steve Avila is certainly a monster in the trenches. So no issues with that pick at all.
Yeah. So what position group do you want to look at for this pick at number 52?
Well, let's take a look. I mean, we're obviously not taking a nose tackle yet. Center's a position we can take a look at. There's still pass catchers out there. Man, you know me. I love Henley. I know you're a big fan of Tank Dell. Let's take a look at some of the big defensive guys. Let's see where we're at there. I know obviously we know Siaki Ika and Keanu Benton are both still on the board. I do love Felix though.
So do you want to
I like my Kansas State guys.
Interior D line.
Oh, this is tough. I really want Cody Mock, but I just don't want him right here. I want to take him later.
I think this is where you have to take him. If you want him, this is where you have to.
I know. And I hate it. But he's just such a Seahawks kind of guy. I mean, you want to talk about positional versatility. This guy has played at all 5 positions along that offensive line during his college career. He showed at the Senior Bowl that he can absolutely acquit himself really well at the center position. If we're thinking about taking a guy that we want to groom behind Evan Brown, him or Joe Tippmann would be my top 2. But I think just for positional dexterity, I got to go Cody Mock. Man, this is tough to take him here with all those other guys. But yeah, I think if the Seahawks are as high on him as I am, I think they take him in the second round. Let's go Cody Mock.
So I like Cody Mock. He primarily was a tackle in college, played some guard. And then he, like you said, he showed at the Senior Bowl that he can play center. And hey, I will take a guy who is a true 5-position utility player on that offensive line. And he has the skills to pay the bills. This guy will go out and get the job done at any of those positions, I would be really excited if the Seahawks got Cody Mock.
Yeah, he's my absolute favorite offensive lineman in this draft. He's my number one offensive line target for them, regardless of position. And I think if we can get him in the latter half of the second round, I think that's a great pick. I would like to be able to take a couple guys for him because we are getting a little thin at some of these other positions. But yeah, I wanted him too bad. I had to take him. So what are you thinking here?
At 83, I actually really like Michael Wilson, wide receiver out of Stanford. I know we got Darnell Washington earlier, so helping out that offense. But if we go fill the need here with another wide receiver, and he's a big body guy. I mean, there was some talk of him being a tight end conversion. So I'm going to pick Michael Wilson because he adds that size, and then maybe we bring in some of those slot guys as undrafted free agents, or perhaps utilize somebody like name just left me, but we have a couple guys who were contributors late in the season, undrafted free agent type of guys who have been on our practice squad who actually looked pretty well in that slot. So we'll have to look and see what they do. But right here in the third round, I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Wilson, wide receiver out of Stanford.
All righty. So we got to, I think, about 40 picks before we pick again.
So what are you looking for in these middle rounds? What type of positions do you think they're going to address?
So we're getting into now we're going into the latter half of the third round here. I think we're going to be looking at guys either I think we're going to go defense pretty heavy in the middle rounds here. I think we're going to either be looking at guys to play linebacker for us, internal linebacker. We could go with another edge rusher type guy that can come off and just be a passing down player. Secondary is another thing to look at. I love JL Skinner, and I a lot, but I just don't think the Seahawks are looking to grab another safety, so he's kind of off my board at this point. So I'm either going to be looking at quarterbacks here or middle linebackers. Looking at guys. Let's take a look at linebackers real quick and see who's available there. Okay. Okay, so it looks like your boy, what is it, Papio? I can't pronounce his friggin' name. Is off the board.
I'm gonna go Papo. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it.
Yeah, we're kind of getting a little thin there. Looks like a lot of the guys that I was hoping were still gonna be there off the board. Let's go back and take a look at cornerbacks because any guy that I'm looking at here, looking at you, Diabete out of Utah, we can get later.
There's some guys here. Ooh. I am a big fan of Riley Moss out of Iowa. I thought Cottrell Clark looked really good at the combine. There's a couple good players here.
Yeah, I think Blackman's another guy that they could take a look at. I did see if you go back to D line or interior D line, and I'm pretty sure that the guy that I'm going to take is going to be the first one up. Nope, not the first one up. Nope, stop. He's right there. We can see him. There we go. Coburn out of Texas. If we're gonna, or yeah, he's the big one, right?
Yeah. He's definitely he would. He's not undersized for a nose. He's physical like a nose. He's probably 310 pounds, probably right around there.
But he plays hard. I mean, this guy can push the offensive line back, and that's what we need at that nose tackle position. So I think we waited a little bit to address that position. I think that's our pick in this round. So
excellent. So I'm going to look back at corners, see if any of those guys that I like are still there.
They are.
And I've got Cottrell Clark. So I'm going to go ahead and take him. Like I said, I really want them to have some competition there. You can never have too many defensive backs because defensive backs go out and do the hard work. They're out there grinding on special teams, doing things like that. So I like to have defensive backs because they can tackle, they're fast and athletic.
Yeah, great pick. All right, let's go back and take a look at linebackers. I want to see if Diabete is still there. I'm pretty sure he is. We might actually probably even go one more round. Yeah, we can go another round at least. Let's take a look at pass catchers.
Backup quarterback here.
Ooh, let's take a look.
Just
Do we
Drew
have who's still there? I know we talked a little bit about Badgenet. We've certainly talked, about Stetson Bennett. Ooh, ooh.
Clayton Tune, who had a sneaky good combine.
He did.
Jake Hayner. I know you like Jake Hayner going into the combine.
I do think the Seahawks are going to draft a cornerback at some point. My guess is they'll probably do it a little bit earlier than we're going to do here. But let's go ahead and take good old Mr. Stetson Bennett out of Georgia. Look, if the idea is to find a guy that could possibly come in to start for us if need be, but also a guy that's going to be just a great locker room guy in that quarterback room, along with Drew Lock, along with Geno Smith, I think Stetson Bennett is right up there with anybody else we could possibly draft in this draft. The guy's a leader. He's a great teammate by all accounts from everybody at Georgia. If the Seahawks wait this long to draft a quarterback, he's my number one guy. Him and Badgett we can get a little bit later. He maybe has a little bit more upside. But if we're going to hitch our wagons to Geno Smith, I think that's a great backup to take. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, kid out of BYU that the Packers drafted to back up Aaron Rodgers for a little while, whose name I am just spacing.
I'm
I'll think of it a little bit later.
Too.
I'll think of it a little bit later. Anyway, he reminds me a lot of that kid that came out of BYU a few years back, and I'll find it.
Yeah, so I actually like Stetson Bennett. I know he's going to be a little older when the season kicks off. I don't mind slightly older players because if that player hits, you probably only have to pay them for one additional contract. So you don't get into these super inflated second contracts. Plus, they're going to be a little more mature. You have that life experience under them. You don't have to worry about some of these dumb mistakes that rookies make. So I don't mind an older player. Also, there's been really good stuff coming out of the locker room at Georgia about Stetson Bennett and his leadership. Plus, I like a good story, right? He's a guy who had to go to junior college and then went from junior college to walking on and then made the team and then got a scholarship and then led them to 2 national championships. Like,
he's a great story.
Yeah, there will be a movie at some point about Stetson Bennett as long as he doesn't continue to get arrested for drunken disorderly.
Well, even then there could be a movie about him. It just won't be the movie you want.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right, so
Ty Detmer, by the way, Ty Detmer was the quarterback I was trying to remember.
Oh, you went way back on that one.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, he didn't back up Aaron Rodgers. He backed up Brett Favre.
Yeah. All right, so here we are in the 6th round, pick 198. I think we hit a lot of our needs, but one of the areas that I think the Seahawks need to fill is that a running back. This is a deep running back class. We need to get some other guys in there to compete. I'm not comfortable taking a power back at this position because these guys would be like Tavion Thomas. In this mock anyway, you can get him in the 7th round. Cameron Peoples also, I like him in that power back category, those 2 guys. I like what I saw out of Keaton Mitchell. I'm going to go ahead and take Keaton Mitchell.
All right. Yeah, a guy put from a smaller school, but put up good numbers. Has showed ability to be a pass catcher out of the backfield, also good in pass protection. We're looking for a guy that could be a complimentary back to K9. I think he's a good pick.
All right, since we're not doing trades, you're coming up on the last pick in the draft for the Seahawks. Is there a position that you're looking at kind of addressing a need here? Or are you just
I can tell you right now, I can tell you right now, if Puka Nacua is still on the board, we're taking him.
Puka Nacua?
Sorry, I apologize for mispronouncing his name. So I didn't watch a ton of college film this year. I did go to one college game, and that was BYU in their bowl game. And that kid is lightning on grass. And if he's not here, it looks like he's not here.
He's not here. No, I'm right there with you.
Who snagged him?
I'm a big Puka Nacua fan. He started out at Washington, I believe, and then went to BYU and just exploded when he got to BYU. Put up great numbers. Another guy who's a little bit older, has that maturity under his belt. Really liked what I saw in the combine. in the field work and the route work that they did. He looked very clean and crisp. So I would have probably taken him with the previous pick had I remembered to look for him. I really like.
Yeah, he's a guy that I hope the Seahawks are targeting. I think he could be our why am I space D Eskridge insurance policy. If D Eskridge doesn't work it out at all, I think there's a similar skill set there, and I think Nakua can come right in and kind of fill that spot. All right, well, he's not there. Let's go back and take a look at linebacker. I know Mohammed's still on the board, so we're taking him. He's right there. You don't even have to do it. There you go. Number 1 linebacker right there. We've got a history of taking Utah linebackers and them working out really, really well in the Seahawks system. So yeah, let's get another one. Let Bobby groom one of his guys from his alma mater.
Well, his alma mater is actually Utah State.
Oh, sorry, Bobby. That's the Utes. My bad.
I gotta call you out.
Still Utah, same state. Well,
same state.
I get one every podcast. There's my one. I saved the best for last, right there. Let's see what Pro Football Focus graded our draft as, guys. My guess is it's a B plus, or maybe just a straight B.
Yeah, I think they're going to say we reached on a few of them, but
Darnell Washington F. Yeah,
yep,
well,
we knew it was going to happen, right? He's 71 on
all
PFF's
Adam picks.
board. Listen, this guy is going to go in the first round or in the first 15 picks of the second round. NFL GMs and scouts are enamored by this guy, as they should be. He's athletic. He's big. He wants to block, which is a rarity for tight ends in the NFL these days. This guy, it's crazy that PFF has him ranked 71st. With
this guy, if there is a tight end in this draft that has Rob Gronkowski upside, it's Darnell Washington. He's the only one. We could talk a little bit about Kuntz, who I also love out of Old Dominion, but he's obviously a later pick. If I didn't take Darnell in the first round, he would have been the guy that I would have looked at in those like third, fourth rounds. But there is not another tight end in this draft that has the upside that Darnell Washington does, and the upside that he has, and can also come in and be a proficient pass and run blocker from day one. I mean, he's the complete package at tight end. The man's upside is sky high, and he's got such a high floor that I think they're crazy for calling that an F. They like your pick of Steve Avila. Hey, look.
Yeah, and I think this is where he's going to go. He's going to go somewhere between 25 and 45. So I think smack right dab in the middle of that is totally fine with me. Let's see. They didn't like your Cody Mock pick, but we knew it. We knew they wouldn't like that one.
Look, I do think that's a little bit early for Cody Mock. I agree. He was not going to be there when we picked again at 83.
No.
So for me, like he might fall to the top of the third round, but he's not going any further than that. And like I already said, he is my number 1 offensive line prospect in this draft. I want the Seahawks to target him. I think they're going to be targeting him probably either early in that third round if they trade down, or maybe trade down to late in the second round. But they're wrong. He's a good pick.
Yep. Let's see. They liked Michael Wilson. They liked Keandre Colburn and Cottrell Clark. They did not like Stetson Bennett, but I knew that was going to happen. But I think this is the range where you have to, if they're going to draft a quarterback, it needs to be in this range. If you're not angling for one of those top 5 guys. And I say 5 because we all know what the consensus top 4 quarterbacks are. I think Hendon Hooker would be a great pickup for the Seahawks, but they're going to have to get him either trading back from 20 to get him in the late first round to get that 5th-year option, or they're going to have to take him at 37 because some other team's going to snatch him up. He's not falling like I think everybody thought he would when he got injured. So I think he's a legit target for the Seahawks.
He's shown that he's having a great rehab. He is positive he's going to be ready to go day 1 of training camp. I don't doubt it with the type of competitor he is. But yeah, he's not going to be falling very far out of the top of that second round, if he even goes to the second round. I would not surprise me at all to see a team trade back into the top of the bottom of the first round to get him to have that 5th-year option, much like the Ravens did. which we could talk about. The whole podcast we can do about the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But much like the Ravens did, trading back into the bottom of that first round to get Lamar Jackson and get that fifth-year option, I see there's several teams I can think of that would love to do that. Number one on my list being the the Washington Commanders. My apologies. So yeah, if we're gonna get him, we've got to either take him bottom of the first round or early in that second round, because someone's gonna snag that guy.
Somebody will. And like I said, if you don't end up getting him, then taking one of his other backups, Bennett, Toon, Badgent, some of these guys here in this fifth round range, I think is where one of those guys will go if they decide to go with a rookie quarterback at some point. And then obviously our last two picks here, Mitchell and Diabetes. I'm sure I said that wrong. These were value picks. They were guys who kind of slipped in this mock draft, but they filled a hole that we had in the roster. So we snatched them up. It liked both of them. Overall grade of B-, which I think is pretty good considering they gave us 2 Fs and a D. So I'll take that B-.
Look, if they give us, I realize that we got a pretty high grade last year, but I'm used to the Seahawks getting pretty low grades in the draft. So I think a B is pretty good.
Well, there you have it. That is our 7-round Seahawks centered sort of mock draft. And who knows what's going to happen in real life?
They're going to take Anthony Richardson at 5. That's going to happen.
I will lose my mind.
I shouldn't have put that out in the universe. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
You know, I don't have anything against Anthony Richardson as a person. I don't have anything against him as a player. I just don't think you take a project quarterback when the Seahawks are obviously in win now mode. And that's what I see here. We're making moves. They had a complete changeover of the defensive line to try to bring guys in. This is a win now team, and it's a win now team because you have a 32-year-old quarterback. Your coach is in his 70s. Like there are legit reasons to try to go out and get a championship now versus develop a player for a couple years before you can go compete. So I don't think they're on the Anthony Richardson bandwagon. At least I hope they're not, because he is definitely a first-round athlete, but he's a third-round quarterback. So I don't know. Somebody might get him and he might develop into somebody absolutely amazing player. I just don't want the Seahawks
he's got that
risk right now.
He has the upside to be the next Patrick Mahomes. Absolutely. If he's trained up well, I mean, Patrick Mahomes might be a little bit high because he's not quite that accurate. But I mean, I could easily see this guy being, the second coming of Cam Newton or even Lamar Jackson. I mean, he is that kind of a freak athlete. But yeah, I agree. I think the Seahawks are clearly signaling that they think they've got a roster that can compete for a championship now. They've got the core for it. They made the playoffs last year when no one expected them to. I think they're high on themselves, and I feel like they want to push it further this year. I would be shocked if they took a developmental quarterback with their first pick in the first round, which is the only spot they're going to be able to get Anthony Richardson at. So I don't expect it. Would I be shocked by it? No, because the Seahawks love making shocking picks, especially in the first round. But I agree. I don't see that happening, just not with the way that they're constructing this roster now.
All right. Well, that was the 7-round mock. Thank you for listening. As always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.